And leaders from the G7 met virtually for an emergency meeting today to discuss the escalating war in Ukraine, condemning the attacks and pledging support for as long as it takes. At least 19 people were killed after Russian missiles rained down on multiple Ukrainian cities, including the capital of Kyiv. And that's the story we're diving into right now. NewsNation Washington correspondent Evan Lambert is live from the Capitol. What's the latest, Evan?
Nichole, this pledge of support by the White House and G7 leaders comes as these attacks continued for a second day in Ukraine. As Russia bombarded Ukraine with missiles for a second day, prompting air sirens in Kyiv, leaving a path of destruction across several cities and killing at least 19 people, including civilians, the leaders of the G7 and the White House pledged to hold Russia accountable.
Russia's latest missile strikes against Ukraine once again demonstrate Russia's and President Putin's brutality. President Biden continues to make clear, along with our allies and partners, that we will not waver from our commitment to support Ukraine as long as it takes.
In the face of nuclear threats from Russia, the White House saying Tuesday it has seen no signs that Putin has made a decision to use nuclear or any other weapons of mass destruction in Ukraine. A White House spokesman saying it's working to expedite the delivery of the sophisticated air defense systems President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has asked for. The U.S. already approved the shipment of 8 National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems, or NASAMS, with 2 expected to be delivered soon. It was the main topic of conversation Monday between President Biden and President Zelenskyy, who on Telegram called for more sanctions from G7 countries. In a statement, Zelenskyy also seemed to throw cold water on diplomatic talks directly with Putin, saying, quote, "Now one person is blocking peace, and this person is in Moscow." G7 leaders called out Moscow's recent attacks in response to the bombing of the bridge between Crimea and Russia, saying in a joint statement after their call with Zelenskyy Tuesday, quote, "We condemn these attacks in the strongest possible terms and recall that indiscriminate attacks on innocent civilian populations constitute a war crime. We will hold President Putin and those responsible to account." And the G7 also saying in its statement that if Russia uses chemical, nuclear, or biological weapons, there will be severe consequences. Nichole?
Severe consequences. All right, Evan, thank you. Joining us now, retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton. General, thanks for being here. The president of Belarus saying Russian troops will return to his country in large numbers. It's similar to what we saw when this war started months ago. Are we talking about another large-scale offensive at this point?
Well, good evening, Nichole. In terms of large scale, it's hard to put that into type of a scope because right now Putin is on the ropes and he's losing significant ground in Ukraine, and the tide has certainly turned against him. In fact, at the G7 today, the emergency meeting of the G7, which really showed an extraordinary show of unity with not only within the G7, but also with President Zelenskyy. President Zelenskyy also asked that there be a consideration for an international force along the Belarus-Ukraine border so that there is not any participation or flow of Russian troops into Ukraine to open up another front. That, to me, it's possible, but I don't know if it's likely or in terms of how effective it would be. Easy for me to say. I'm sitting here in Jupiter, Florida, but nonetheless, there is certainly could be a threat from that direction.
All right. So General, there's this latest move. There's Putin's increased nuclear threats. Is this his final act of desperation?
No, I don't believe that I would call it a final act. I would call it, however, act of desperation. Anytime you launch 84 cruise missiles, and by the way, there was another strike, as Evan, clearly reported, another strike today across Ukraine in several cities and so forth. However, relatively ineffective, but it is going after indiscriminate targets against civilians. Again, it shows, in my view, this is war criminal territory, certainly for Putin and his military leaders. So it's his back against the wall, but there's going to be many more pages out of this playbook. We just need to stand by for more. If I may, on another point, it's not just going after civilian targets. He's going after electrical power grid and energy power grid because the winter's coming up, and he wants to slow down, if not stop, the energy production that will warm the houses of the citizens of Ukraine.
Well, General, you said that there's going to be many more points. And let's talk about Poland. I mean, the government there says it's inspecting bomb shelters as a precaution. How concerned should we be at this point that this war is going to spill over into neighboring countries?
I don't believe it's going to, necessarily that's the next couple steps or so. But if I'm in Poland, I would absolutely be concerned. And my sources in Poland, or at least from what I understand, is they would tell you that let's not think about having a war with Putin in the next 5 years. The war is right now. This is where we have to defeat, we collectively being NATO and the allies, and certainly Poland up against that Ukrainian border. They want Putin to be stopped, and they want him to be removed from Ukraine, and this is the time and the opportunity for it to do it. And President Biden, clearly, as well as the other NATO and certainly the G7 leaders, has said, we will stand by as long as it takes. My advocate or my position of advocacy in terms of what I would be telling the president is not only in terms of how long it takes, but certainly what will it take in terms of increased capabilities, increased ammunition supply, such as NASMs that Evan indicated. And so I think it's key that we're at a turning point right now, but the turning point's going in the direction in favor of Ukraine, the United States and NATO, and frankly, for the rest of the free world.
All right, General Newton, as always, we thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.